Good evening, and welcome to our midweek worship with Bismarck United Church of Christ. Tonight we're going to hear an update from our mission partners who have been serving in East Timor. East Timor has been one of our partnerships around the world that we've taken part in, and some of the pictures behind me are pictures of the school that we have supported over the years. And so let's hear an update tonight on Tom and Monica's work in East Timor, and also an update on the school.
And I have had the fortune of working as a global ministries mission co-worker in East Timor for 7 years. And I first of all want to thank you so much for your interest and support of the work that Tom and I have done during this time. As you saw in the video clip that we just watched, that's an example of the work that we do with Clinic Emmanuel Los Palos. Clinic is a ministry of the Protestant Church of East Timor. Those are our partners in Timor. And as you saw in the video, we spend time out in the community working in water and sanitation and hygiene and trying to improve the lives of people in rural areas. The clinic serves the community 5 days a week in an outpatient clinic capacity. Before the coronavirus pandemic, we had an average of 60 patients coming into the clinic every day. And with the transition that's happened over the last several months here, on the good side, Timor has had the good fortune and the good management in healthcare to have about 25 cases only of coronavirus and no deaths to this point in September of 2020. And we hope that that will continue. The clinic has changed its focus from working in a more clinical setting in the clinic to moving out into the community to do more health education, which is so needed there. The women that I worked with are all women of the Protestant Church of East Timor. They have served the community for 30 years. And again, it's been my blessing and my fortune to work with them, and I so much appreciate the attention and the support through prayers and financial support that you have given over these years. Thanks.
Greetings, friends. It's great to be with you on this. I think it's going to be a Wednesday evening. We're recording this a few days early. I'm Reverend Tom Little. I was with you a few years ago with my daughter Hannah when we visited your church in Bismarck, and I still remember that very fondly. It was a great experience. The hospitality that you showed, the interest and enthusiasm that you had for the work that we were doing at the time, and just your long-standing interest in East Timor, and particularly in the school in Lisadilla. We're really thankful for that long-standing partnership and commitment, and are delighted to be able to share a little bit with you and reflect with you on this Wednesday evening prayer service. So I've chosen a text to share with you this evening, and just a brief reflection from Romans chapter 1, just two verses, verses 11 and 12, that are kind of a guiding light for us as we think about what does it mean to be in partnership in God's mission. So those verses say this, the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Rome, "For I am longing to see you, so that I may share with you some spiritual gift to strengthen you, or rather, so that we may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith, both yours and mine." So you hear in that letter that Paul writes to the church in Romans a deep sense of affection when he thinks about them, when he thinks about the fact that the gospel of Jesus Christ has already gotten to them long before he himself has gone there. That God's work and God's presence is already there among the community in Rome, and he thinks about them with this sense of affection and a recognition that that in the journey of faith, it's never a one-way street. You know, that we have something to share with others, and that others have something to share with us. And wherever it is that we go, we discover that God has already been at work in and through the community to which we are sent, in the community in which we find ourselves. And for me, this is a poignant reflection about the relationship between Global Ministries and the partnership with the Protestant Church of East Timor. And I want to give you, kind of think about that through the lens of the school in Lisadilla particularly. When I was with you in 2018, you may recall that we had, I had spent some time over the previous year or two doing kind of a study of the impact of that school on the community in Lisadilla there. The school had been going about 10 years at that point, and we wanted to really try to have some kind of an assessment to really think about, you know, what kind of impact has this school had in terms of social transformation in the community. And at the end of that study, we really concluded that we really wanted to try to see something in a more along the lines of more of a vocational training program. And that was a conclusion that was drawn both by the community itself and by us in Global Ministries. We kind of came to that conclusion together after doing a lot of listening, a lot of consultation, and a lot of observation with how things had been going in the school over 10 years. Huge impact in the community over 10 years. Over 400 students have graduated, have benefited from education there that otherwise probably would not have had access to higher education in a very remote rural area. So we looked at starting a vocational training program in agriculture. This is the community that lives by and through agriculture. Farming is part of the fabric of the community, and I think that is no doubt something that has long been an interest of yours and something that you share in common with this community in Timor. And so we put in place a program to fence off an area of about 4 hectares and to begin by putting in some crops, with the idea that our vocational training program would sort of grow out of the agricultural work that we already had started there. We planted cassava and corn. The first year, actually, we worked on clearing the land and putting in a fence In the second year, we put in corn and cassava. Um, I wish I could share with you some deeper sense of the challenge to which that is to accomplish something like that at this remote school. I think you're all aware of the journey from Dili out to Lisadilla takes about 2 hours, but most of that is on a very primitive dirt road that goes up a river. And so even the simplest things are made difficult by some of those logistical challenges: communication, getting materials there, relationships with the local community. All of these things made for a very challenging endeavor to start the school in the first place. But we found that those challenges were both continued and to some extent overcome in this effort to get this agricultural program going. The good news is that myself, together with Reverend Albino da Costa, who's the current director of the NGO, the church NGO that runs the school, were able to work with the local community and get that agricultural program started. We found it extremely difficult, however, to organize anything resembling a well-organized training program in those first few years. And I share that with you out of just an honest reflection on some of the challenges of partnership. You know, when we talk and think about mutuality, as Paul speaks of here in this letter to the Romans, when we think about mutuality, one element of that is that we, as partners, recognize that although we have gifts to share, we also have limitations in terms of understanding how something like this may work in a particular community. And likewise, the community that we're working with has both gifts and limitations. And we met both some of the gifts and some of the limitations in trying to pull this together. The good news is that we did establish a 4-hectare area, fenced-in area, where there is a rotation of both cassava and corn that serves as both sustenance for the kids who are going to the school in terms of their diet, as well as a small source of economic, just some income generation for them, the surplus they can sell at the market. But we did not realize the goal that we really had yet, anyway, of starting a vocational training program. The barriers to that were substantial, and we did the best we could. And that's kind of one of the lessons, I guess, that I take away from our understanding of mission partnership is that, you know, mission partnership involves both challenges and setbacks. But that doesn't mean that we sort of throw up our hands and give up. Rather, it means that we have to be better listeners and be persistent in our efforts and our commitments to the relationships with the people. You know, one of the guiding ideas of our mission partnership over the many years that we've been serving in East Timor was something that Reverend Jim Mose used to say and still does, which is that projects are important, but relationships are everything. And I think that is something that's been central to our work and our experience serving in East Timor, and something that I think is central to mission partnership, recognizing that, you know, God is alive and active and working to bring healing and wholeness in the midst of communities, wherever it is that we find ourselves. Our job is to really discover and try to be a part of that together with the partners that we find and that we commit to walking with and accompanying there. And in this particular case, there have been many successes, things to be grateful for, things to be in awe of, really. I recall one time, and I think I may have shared this story with you, when I was doing a community listening session in Lisadilla. And one subsistence farmer, stood up. This is a guy who had no education whatsoever, didn't know how to read or write. And he said, education, it's through education that we become human. And I thought that was a really profound statement on his part, and it really speaks of why this commitment over the long term to bring education to this remote community is so worth the effort. It's that sense of dignity, sense of humanity that it brings to the people, that they're not left behind or forgotten. And so I just want to kind of bring that to you in a reflection this evening on faith and mutuality and mission partnership. And thank you again for your long-standing interest and commitment to the Protestant Church of East Timor, and especially the school in Lisadilla. It's probably going to be a little bit more challenging in years to come. We are now moved back to Minnesota. We've sort of paused our work in East Timor. At least we're not going to be living there full time anymore. We've moved back to Minnesota, where we'll be living, and our kids will be in school here. Maybe a little bit more challenging for you to stay engaged with that, but I want to let you know that Monica and I are both always available to connect you with our partners in East Timor, and particularly with the school. However it is that you feel called to be involved, want to continue that involvement and commitment, updates on information, activities that they are up to, happy to be that bridge and do that work. We will continue to be involved with Global Ministries in a variety of different ways. So thank you again very much. I am sorry that we can't be there with you in person, but I'm grateful to Gretchen for the opportunity to share with you this brief reflection. God bless you. Thanks.